we wouldn't have to give 100%, almost 100% of our hydrocarbons to the Americans at discount prices, and you wouldn't have had to ask me that question. Because I would have answered, in that scenario, I would have answered, we'll go around the Americans. We'll sell our energy directly. But that's something that the Liberals would not let us do. Freeland supported killing the Energy East pipeline, which would have moved 1 million barrels of Western oil to the St. John refinery and off to Europe, by the way, which would have helped defund Putin.
Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Ain't that the truth? Danielle Smith has completely gone rogue. She is completely rejecting Justin Trudeau because, of course she would. After everything that he has put Alberta through, after everything he has put the country's economy through, and it has actually been quite disgusting to see how he really treats people. Oh, I'm a feminist, but it seems like every single opportunity he has to throw a woman under the bus, he takes with so much pride. He is so happy to vehemently say the things that he does.
But they should also put their country first, as every single premier except Danielle Smith did.
Justin Trudeau's Liberal government preys on people who they think are stupid and weak, right? That's how they've gained so much popularity, because everything is so compassionate. And if you don't agree with us, well, that's just because you're an ist or phobe. That's because you've been influenced by conservative rhetoric.
Both right-wing policy, right-wing attacks and social media, you end up with a lot of misinformation, disinformation, and responsible governments have to stay focused on the policies that are making a difference, and that's what we've been doing.
And the sad part is the fact that a lot of people are dumb. A lot of people don't care. A lot of people just kind of read the headlines and they go with that. I see it all the time in my comment section, especially on TikTok. I'm Jasmine Lane. This is Over Opinionated. Feel free to subscribe, like, share, comment your thoughts down below, and give me a follow on other social media platforms as well. We are going to be doing a very comprehensive deep dive into Danielle Smith laying scorched earth on Justin Trudeau, and how Danielle Smith is not the traitor that Trudeau is very intentionally trying to paint her as. In fact, she might actually be the only person who is standing up for Canada full tilt, for a variety of reasons of which we will get into.
Okay, the country's premiers have been meeting with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau throughout the last several hours. The meeting has ended now. The goal was to devise a joint response to Donald Trump's potential tariffs and possibly a retaliation, because as early as Monday, the president-elect could slap a 25% tariff on all Canadian goods.
So despite the fact that Donald Trump doesn't actually get inaugurated until Monday, when these tariffs are supposedly going to be coming into full swing, Trudeau's government officially announced yesterday that they have a $37 billion counter tariff that will be unveiled as soon as U.S. President-elect Donald Trump is sworn in on Monday, which sounds kind of weird to announce. It's almost like the government of Canada wants to be tariffed by the U.S. And honestly, with Justin Trudeau's narcissism and the fact that he is currently being rejected, I wouldn't put that past him to go out in a fury like this and to be like, oh, well, it's all Danielle Smith's fault. It's all the Conservatives' fault because they weren't Team Canada. I could totally picture that actually happening in his brain. But nonetheless, that is what's happening. Melanie Joly also she was on CNN the other day. It was humiliating and embarrassing. I talked about it in my last video. But here's something else that she released yesterday about the Donald Trump tariff threats.
Because we know that the impacts on Canadians would be really, really, really difficult. And why I'm saying that is we know that there would be lots of job loss across the country. And we know that this would also have an impact on cost of living for Canadians. I won't go into the details of what that figure is like, but definitely we have numbers that are highlighting how much this could be.
I'm sorry, why would you not want to go into the figures of what that would be like? You are a representative of Canada working on behalf of the Canadian people, and you allegedly have the numbers of just how much this will severely impact our lives, and you don't want to go into the details of it.
Devastating. This would be basically starting a trade war. The Americans would be starting a trade war against us, and this would be the biggest trade war between Canada and U.S. in decades. We've gone through a very difficult moment during COVID where we had to save many businesses and save a lot of livelihoods across the country. And so we have the experience of how we can address severe economic damage.
That is such a bizarre thing to say because you guys had no problem whatsoever in taking away the livelihoods of people, of shutting the doors of businesses that should have been open. And let's not even get started on all the bank accounts you froze. I also remember that the COVID pandemic was largely massively profitable for a lot of liberal insiders who suddenly decided to start businesses selling masks and selling all these other, protection items that never actually got bought, but they sure did get a lot of money in federal funds. So speaking of Melanie Joly, who was just speaking there, she had initially said earlier in the week that everything is on the table, including oil from Alberta. And to that, here is just a recap of what Danielle Smith responded, which then had a massive ripple effect.
Clearly, I mean, what I've been hoping to do with all of my media appearances and interactions with the administration and various other incoming officials is to argue why we should continue to have a tariff-free relationship between the U.S. and Canada. And I think that the bedrock of that tariff-free relationship is energy. I think that when you talk about how we export, and I think that the Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, made this point recently, we actually sell discounted oil to the U.S. They upgrade it. So $100 billion worth of Canadian exported oil turns into $300 billion worth of value-added product and exports that the U.S. can then use with their trade partners around the world. So I just feel like the more we make those arguments, slowly but surely, we'll be able to make the case that we should continue to enjoy a tariff-free relationship.
So let's break this down, okay? Danielle Smith had the opportunity to go down to Mar-a-Lago, meet with President Donald Trump. She actually stayed at Mar-a-Lago, unlike Justin Trudeau, who flew there and wasn't invited to spend the night because Donald Trump is no fan of his. I wonder why. And she was then smeared for going down to Mar-a-Lago, even though if you just listen to everything she just said, it definitely seems like she is in better standing to plead the case for Canada than our prime minister is. But nonetheless, the entire mentality of the left shifted to Danielle Smith is a traitor for going behind the backs of Justin Trudeau and having this meeting that she was invited to with President-elect. Anybody with a brain cell would realize that that was a wonderful opportunity, given the very strained relationship between our government and the incoming administration.
I just take a different approach. I respect Minister Smith, but I just believe in Canada comes first. Well, everyone has something that they're saying, hey, we may have to sacrifice a little bit.
Danielle's going to do what she needs to do what she believes she needs to do to protect the people of Alberta. Our country is under direct threat by the President-elect of the United States. It is a declaration of economic war, in my opinion. And in wartime, people need to come together and support each other. Whatever it takes to ensure we get the attention of the Americans.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith said yesterday she couldn't go along with the federal plan to fight tariffs because it doesn't rule out export taxes on Alberta energy, and she doubled down on that stance today.
She has quadrupled down on that statement and honestly made an awful lot of sense. In her initial statement about this, she said that we also urge our entire nation to use this tariff threat as an opportunity to correct the misguided direction of this country and commence multiple infrastructure projects that focus on developing, upgrading, and exporting our oil, gas, and other natural resources, instead of effectively landlocking them and keeping us fully reliant on one primary customer, which is the biggest flaw in this entire plan to begin with. I will be traveling to Washington, D.C. this week for the inauguration and will be returning to the United States several times over the coming months to meet with U.S. lawmakers and officials to continue to make the case against the imposition of tariffs on Canadian products and to strengthen and grow the trading relationship between our two great and independent nations. I also came across this incredibly insightful graph that goes to show yet again just how imperative Alberta's economy is for the rest of the country. This is the province profitability back in 2023 is when this graph was done. Current versus without equalization. And you will see that the majority of provinces are actually funded so much by Alberta's oil sector that without it, they would be $0 in revenue because they do not have any industry of their own. Like, look at this. And maybe that will kind of open up your mind a little bit more as to why Danielle Smith is taking the stance that she is. Imagine if the yellow was actually real. That would mean that Quebec, Manitoba, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, Labrador, Prince Edward Island, and the Northwest Territories and Nunavut would all have no money. None.
Well, just what the country needs in the moment of crisis, another national unity debate. Like this is not good news on any front.
Danielle Smith actually beautifully wrote just yesterday, here's what happened the last time a Trudeau slapped an export tax on Alberta energy. Unemployment quadrupled from 3.7 to 12.4% as thousands lost their jobs. Home values plummeted 30% and thousands lost their homes. Bankruptcies rose by over 150%. Tens of thousands left the province, plunging us into a multi-year recession. And cost to Alberta was between $50 to $100 billion. Our government is not going to sell out Albertans to another Trudeau export tax on energy. His dad crushed the lives of thousands in our province. We won't let his son do it to our people again. Never.
So, frankly, the Liberals have got us in this mess by making us beholden to the Americans and giving them, the Americans, our energy at massive price discounts, selling our oil for $15 typically below the market rate, and selling them natural gas for $4 per million metric British thermal units when they're going for $13 in Europe. That is economic sadomasochism. And I will put an end to it. When I'm Prime Minister, we will repeal the anti-energy law C-69. We will rapidly approve LNG plants and any other private sector unsubsidized investments to expand our ability to sell our energy without going through the Americans. And I will unite our people. We see right now that not only have the Liberals weakened our economy, now they're resorting to dividing our people. Divide and conquer. Right when the president is threatening us with tariffs, what is the first thing the Liberal Party of Freeland and Carney think to do? Divide Canadians. Divide our provinces. We don't need to be divided. We need to be united.
She also quadrupled down again by saying 100% agree with Pierre Poilievre. It's time to officially close the door on the Trudeau, Freeland, Carney Liberals and their destructive policies, which will only further divide our country and continue to hurt our relationship with the United States, our largest trading partner. It's time for new leadership in Canada that unleashes our resource economy and that unites us rather than divides us. And you know what? Some people will say it's Pierre Poilievre who's really dividing us, not Justin Trudeau. And I just want you to reflect on the current example we have in front of us right now, where Justin Trudeau has successfully divided us, fear-mongered, and manipulated the narrative so much so that Liberal supporters actually think that the only thing holding us back from being tariff-free is Danielle Smith's compliance with what Justin Trudeau wants to propose as counter tariffs. Like, these people are so dense that they don't even realize that what they're so angry about is a hypothetical still, and what they're so angry about right now is going to come whether or not Danielle Smith agrees to allow Justin Trudeau to completely destroy Alberta and this country's economy yet again. Like, look at how divided the left versus right are on this issue, thanks to Justin Trudeau and the way that he has positioned and postured himself and the matter against conservatives and against Danielle Smith, when this isn't even something that's happening yet.
I think it's very clear that right now, Pierre Poilievre, who wants to be Prime Minister for all Canadians, has a choice to make. Either he stands up to fight for all Canadians alongside all premiers and the federal government that are doing that, or he chooses to stand with Danielle Smith, Kevin O'Leary, and ultimately Donald Trump.
It's all hypothetical, and he has worded things and talked about them enough to convince people that the only reason why Donald Trump is imposing these tariffs on us is because Danielle Smith refuses to bend the knee yet again. Just think about that, okay? And I really have to highlight this one post by Dan Knight, who said, let's take a moment to appreciate Justin Trudeau's brilliant strategy for handling Trump's latest stunt, tariffs. Trump, in true fashion, threatens to slap a 25% tariff on Canadian goods because apparently Canada is responsible for all of America's problems, from border security to fentanyl. And Trudeau's response, a $150 billion countermeasure plan that includes the possibility of crippling Alberta's energy sector. Genius, except for one small problem. Alberta said no thanks. Why wasn't Alberta there? Because Premier Danielle Smith isn't an idiot. Trudeau's plan includes export levies on Canadian oil, a move that would essentially tell Alberta to torch its own economy to help Trudeau look tough on Trump. Alberta exports $13.3 billion of energy to the U.S. every month, making it the lifeblood of this country's economy. But sure, let's just gamble that away because Trudeau needs a distraction from his sinking legacy. Alberta's refusal isn't just about this plan. It's about years of Ottawa treating Alberta like the black sheep of Confederation. Remember the Northern Gateway Pipeline? Trudeau killed it. Energy East, dead too. Those projects could have given Alberta access to global markets. Instead, Trudeau left the province landlocked and dependent on the U.S. and completely vulnerable to economic extortion like this. And now, after all that sabotage, he expects Alberta to unite behind his plan. Please. Don't get me started on Bill C-69. They call it the Impact Assessment Act. This masterpiece of legislation basically made it impossible to build anything that moves oil, and just to twist the knife, Trudeau slapped on a carbon tax because nothing says we care about your economy like making it more expensive to run it. And then there's Quebec. Oh, Quebec, the province that spent years wagging its finger at Alberta, calling its oil sands dirty energy, and blocking pipeline projects that could have helped the whole country. Meanwhile, Quebec gleefully cashes billions in equalization payments, heavily subsidized by Alberta's oil wealth. That's right, the same people who call Alberta the bad guy are more than happy to take their money. And now Trudeau wants Alberta to step up and take one for the team. Give me a break. Danielle Smith saw this nonsense for what it is, exploitation. She flatly refused to sign on to any plan that includes export levies or energy restrictions. And you know what? Good for her. Alberta is done being Ottawa's doormat. And let's not forget why Alberta is even in this mess. For 9 years, Trudeau's government has treated Alberta like its personal piggy bank, siphoning billions through equalization payments while doing absolutely nothing, zero, to support its economy. When oil prices collapsed and families were struggling, what did Alberta get? Crickets. Trudeau was too busy virtue signaling to his globalist pals to care. And now with Trump threatening a 25% tariff that could cripple Alberta's economy, Trudeau has the audacity to turn around and ask Alberta to make the ultimate sacrifice. And then when Danielle Smith does what any rational leader would do, she heads to Mar-a-Lago to defend her province's interests. What does Trudeau's cabinet do? Well, they all lose their minds, clutch their pearls, and call her unpatriotic. Unpatriotic. Are you kidding me? This is coming from the same government that has spent nearly a decade treating Alberta like the annoying little sibling of the Confederation. Good enough to bankroll Quebec's luxurious equalization payments, but not important enough to actually listen to. Now, after many years of kicking Alberta to the curb, they expect Smith to roll over and play nice and work together. Doug Ford says,
"United we stand, divided we fall."
Great soundbite, Doug. But unity doesn't mean asking one province to carry the load while others reap the rewards. Quebec's Premier François Legault said, nothing off the table. Of course not. Quebec isn't paying the price. This isn't unity. This is a shakedown. Here's the reality. Alberta isn't at the table because Ottawa hasn't earned the right to ask them to be. You don't treat a province like an ATM for nearly a decade and then expect them to roll over when you need a favor. Danielle Smith stood up and said, enough. And frankly, good for her. So here's the real question. How long does Ottawa think it can keep exploiting Alberta before the province decides it's had enough? Because let me tell you, when Alberta's done, it's not just the energy sector that's going to feel it. It's the entire country.
Sending Pierre Poilievre to negotiate with Donald Trump is the worst possible idea. I can think of one other politician I might not send. It just came to me in the last 24 hours.
This is what happens when you base your entire political strategy on lies and division. Danielle Smith, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. This girl just doesn't even quit. I can't tell you how many times I finished filming this video only to refresh my X feed and see that something new came out. So, most recently now, Central and Eastern Canadians have been unknowingly funding the Russian government by purchasing their oil, enabling their fight against Ukraine. The Russians have been using their shadow fleet to avoid detection by refining their oil in foreign intermediary countries, then exporting it to Canada. A true Team Canada approach means addressing this critical security concern. It's time to build the Energy East and Northern Gateway pipelines to displace Russian oil, achieve energy independence, and ensure we have a diversified customer base for Canadian energy moving forward. Justin Trudeau, narcissists, they think they're so much smarter than everybody else, but wow, they are stupid. So yeah, let me know what you think about all of this. Personally, I am done with all of the stupidity that this has caused. I'm done with the division this has caused. Very intentionally put, very intentional omitted details of all of this as well. But hey, Justin Trudeau said that he does not like fake news and misinformation. You heard it at the beginning of this video. So I'm just trying to do my part as Team Canada, Canada first, to provide you and anybody willing to open their ears and eyes and see the world right in front of them exactly as it is without those tinted glasses that Justin Trudeau likes to pretend everybody is wearing. I'm Jasmine Lane. This is Over Opinionated. Thank you so much for watching and supporting this channel. It has truly been the greatest blessing of my life to be able to chat with you guys about stuff that really matters and things that I really care about and that we all should really care about on a daily basis. So again, thank you endlessly. Subscribe, like, share, comment, follow, all of the stuff everybody on YouTube tells you to do. It really does mean so much. And I will talk to you very soon.